Okay, so why don't we go ahead then and start with the pledge, and then take it from there.
Good.
All righty. So if you all rise, ready? I pledge allegiance
to the
to the flag
United States
of America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Okay. There we go. Thank you. All right. So are there any changes to the agenda from anyone?
No, ma'am.
All righty. No. All right. Then how about public comments?
So we'd have to rely on Nick for that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess I can just make the announcement that we made last time. So in terms of if you would like to make a public comment, there are a few ways of doing so. Zoom does have a group chat feature, which you guys should have access to if you're connected through some sort of either mobile app or through a web browser. So if you would like to have a public comment through that, you're more than welcome to do so. Please say your first and last name and your address and town of residence included with your comment. There's also a raise hand feature, which you should be able to access. And if you press raise hand, what I can do is I can acknowledge you. I can unmute, because currently all members of the public are on mute, just so that we can not have, you know, a lot of background noise. So feel free to either message or, you know, reach out through the hand chat or the raise hand feature.
Okay. And do we have any at this point?
Nothing that I can see. I don't know if we want to give it a couple minutes or not.
Nick, how can people reach the spot where they can raise their hand?
You can do that through the menu. You should be able to do it through your participants window.
Okay.
So it says, it should say participants, and you would click on that. It would bring you a menu in which you should be able to access that raise hand feature.
Okay, is that where the chat feature is located?
They're in two separate, well, they're in the same window, but they're two separate options. There's participants, and then there's also a chat option.
Right, okay, great.
If people wanted to and they were having a hard time reaching out, they could also send me a text message through 603-933-0973, and then that way the message could also be read into the minutes.
Great, and I see you've got a chat or a message from Deanna Wilson.
Nick, you muted yourself.
Sorry.
All right, so do you guys want me to read these messages, or do you want to read them?
Go ahead if you would read them, please.
All right, so this one is from Deanna Wilson from Ringe. She said, I would just like to say thank you to the staff for the amazing job they are doing with the students, as well as everybody, everything being done for the community. So just a little bit of praise for the staff and everybody for what they're doing.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
I think our teachers definitely deserve that. All the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing else seems to be coming up right now?
Nothing that I can see at this time, but I did put a second public comments section on the agenda, just so that if we did have something come through partway through, we could always, you know, have it read at a later time.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, so let's move on then to the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you, Marcia. Just a couple things to note for tonight. First of all, we have been putting together the district safety coordinator search committee. And so that team is together, and they have been reviewing applications, and we'll be meeting later on this week for the first time to finalize who we're going to be interviewing for that position, to develop some questions, and also make sure that we have a pretty tight timeline on that process. The primary reason why we're meeting tonight is just to talk about calendar. The board has the authority, and the board alone has the authority to change calendar, and so that's why we have to have a board meeting for this purpose. So what I'll do tonight is just kind of review quickly what I've sent out to the community and to the teachers and so forth, the data, the rough data that we had from some surveys as to whether or not we wanted to continue with the April break, to forego the April break and continue teaching all the way through. And we had a third option that was more of a hybrid in there, that as well. So most people chose one way or the other. That when we surveyed parents, we had about 60% who said, please keep on going through the April break. We're home anyway. Let's get out sooner. A lot of comments, regardless of what side people were kind of voting on, was the idea of we would like to be able to get out sooner than later. About 22% in that same survey indicated that they would prefer to have the break. And then there were some in between, about 12 to 14% that said, let's do a hybrid. The teachers, the JREA, and then the associates, which is JRSSA, the surveys that were done through the association showed a little bit of a different message. About 45% of all those voted in those two organizations indicated that they would like to continue with the April break as it was, or as it currently is. Then we had at the teachers, about 37%, maybe about 4 people difference between the two, said let's go all the way through, and we had another cluster of individuals say let's do something in between. So depending on how you look at it, you've got about 55% who would like to do some teaching during that time frame, and 45% say let's have a vacation during that time frame. Of course, to look at the whole picture, we have some other information as well, in that we had 5 snow days this year, and so our original last day of school was the 11th. That would put the last day of school being the following week, which would be the 16th for students. And so if we were to take the entire week, we'd be back to where we originally were, which is the 11th. To not do that means that we would go into that following week. If we did something in between, it would shorten that time frame. It would be, if we took, for instance, if we did taught for 2 days, you'd be taking 2 days off those 5 days. If you taught 3 days, etc. So what I think, initially, what I was thinking, I'm still of the opinion, and I'll give a recommendation in just a moment. I've had several emails from parents. I think it's important to note, one of them actually specifically said, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it or be able to talk tonight. One comment from this parent was, I have a first grader. I've just gotten that first grader into the rhythm of things. I'm really not looking forward to having that time off and then trying to get that rhythm back in there. That same sentiment has been made through our student services department, special ed department, saying that there have been some students, identified and unidentified, who have been slower starters to this process, but have been able to get involved and get into a routine. And so there's concern that breaking the routine could be a problem. That being said, there were some other emails. I got 2 or 3 from parents who said, we voted for to go all the way through the week, but we also recognize that our teachers are doing a great job and they're working really hard, and that we have to consider them as well for this time frame. So I think that all of those are bits of data that we have to consider tonight. And so when I think of everything that we've had with the survey results, with the anecdotal information about our current situation and keeping the patterns going, and making certain that we are also, another goal is to get out of the school year at a reasonable time frame for the summer. I think that the decision that we make needs to look at all of those. And so the recommendation that I would have would be that we do a hybrid, that we recognize the fact that there are some people who need to have a break, and we also understand that by doing a little bit of a hybrid, we can shorten that time frame at the end of the year, while also keeping our students in a rhythm. So at the same time, we are an by hours district, and so if we were to do a hybrid, I would recommend a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday teaching schedule. That would be a Monday and a Tuesday, and then the Wednesday would be more the flex makeup day, checking with individual people and so forth, the way that actually the middle school, high school currently would have their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then a Thursday, Friday off, with Saturday and Sunday, creating a 4-day weekend so that you have enough days in a row to make it meaningful and for there to be some downtime. Simultaneously, that would only get us to, that would only get us to also at the end of the year, coming back to school, I think the Monday following the 12th, so 13th, 14th, 15th, I think that would be the 15th of June. I would recommend, because we have enough hours, that we recognize that all the students have been working hard, the families have been working hard, teachers as well, and that we're well within our time, and that we would not go any past the 12th of June. So the recommendation would be to do a hybrid, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off Thursday, Friday, and have the 4-day weekend there. And then also look at the other end of things and decide that, I mean, there's a lot of things up in the air, I'm certain, with the state of New Hampshire and the governor, and he could make some changes, but we could certainly say that we will make sure that students' last day is no later than June 12th, which is a Friday.
Ruben, did you say Wednesday would be the flex day for all grades?
Yeah, so the flex day
Is
I mean,
normally
it's
Friday.
not what it's called, but it's the best way to kind of just people understand what that means.
Yeah.
The elementary has it on Friday, so I would say that would be for all individuals. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's some every week, regardless of whether you have a shortened week or a longer week, you need time for there to be catch up and some personalized instruction.
So, Ruben, I just want to check in with you. Was there other things that you wanted to say as part of your superintendent's report, or should we now head to the discussion?
I think we can go right to the discussion.
Okay.
If that would be okay with you, unless there are other questions.
That's fine. I think that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some other things that I think we need to talk about, and we could talk about it maybe under future items, or I could just say, in the same vein, other areas of conversation that we need to have, and maybe we have some of those conversations tonight, is as we talk about the end of the year, we also need to talk about graduation, prom, and all those very important milestones that are being kind of jumbled up a little bit because of this current situation.
Okay, so why don't we talk about those things under the future items, and let's open up the conversation around the April vacation, the discussion on that. So I guess I want to know, is there a motion from anyone at this point based on the recommendation? And then we can have discussion once it's open.
So I would be willing to make a motion to adopt the superintendent's recommendation that we have a modified hybrid system working through the vacation week, but taking the Thursday and Friday off as a long weekend.
I would second that.
Okay, so John, you have made the motion that we go with the superintendent's recommendation. We do the hybrid, being Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, being understood as like the flex day where there may be some catching up, some students to do. Thursday, Friday is off to give a longer weekend. And the last date being no later than the 12th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Charlie, you second that? Thank you. So discussion. Can I just do, since it's kind of awkward, do you mind if I just kind of go through the list and ask each person individually on the board if it's discussion? Board, is that okay with you if I manage it that way?
Yes?
That's fine.
All right, so Laurel, do you have any thoughts or opinions at this point? I want to go through everyone once, and then once everyone's had one opportunity to say their thoughts, then we can just more free flow it. But I want to make sure everyone has at least one turn.
No comments.
No comment. Okay, Heidi?
Well, I think it's a good compromise. I wish we could make everyone happy. I really do. I think our teachers are working really hard, and I want to honor that. But our families are working really hard too to have their students do school at home, and I do think that. So we are all stuck at home, and let's hope and pray that we are not stuck at home in June. To me, the idea of getting out a little bit sooner is attractive. I would think it's attractive to probably everyone, but this seems to me like a good compromise to, meet in the middle on this.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Charlie, any thoughts or comments?
Yeah, if you just go by the survey information, you're not going to make everybody happy. Someone's going to be unhappy and someone's not. You just use the survey information. But I think that our teachers and our parents are very flexible, and I think that a compromise is something that they all enjoy. So I think that it's a good response from the board, that we do appreciate all the inputs and we do appreciate the hard work that everybody's doing, parents and the teachers. And I think that the best thing to do is to have a compromise that satisfies as many of both constituents as we can.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. John?
Yes, I would echo those comments. I think the proposed compromise is a good solution that gets us out of school early, which is important, and that gives some downtime as well.
Yep. Okay, thank you, John. Patty?
I agree. I agree with Charlie, and the data is really important. And I think assessing the staff and teachers is crucial in this. And I applaud everyone's efforts to get this far. And hopefully this is a waypoint. And so I would be in favor of it.
Alicia?
Yeah, I think Charlie brings up some good points about the data. That's definitely useful for us in making this decision. I think our teachers have been, I know they've been working really, really hard, helping our kids learn. And I think they need a break as well as families needing a break. But even as hard as it is, for families doing remote learning, I think that the consistency factor, I know especially with my own children, we're just getting into the swing of things. And I've heard that same message from a lot of families that I've talked with. So I think that this is a happy medium, and doesn't make everybody happy, but I think given the information we have, it's the best decision that we can make.
And I'll just say, I concur with, what's been said, that there's no way that everyone's going to be happy. And it is a compromise. And I think the win in all of this is that, we're done no later than the 12th. And if there's anything that we can do to make it sooner, we'll look at that. And I think you're right. Heidi, you said, hopefully things will look different come mid-June. And maybe then, we'll all be ready for a good break. All right, is there any other comments that anyone would like to make?
Yeah, I just have a question. Do we have enough hours to accommodate any more snow days?
I couldn't hear that question. I'm sorry.
The question was, do we have enough hours to accommodate any more snow days?
The answer, I believe, is yes. I would need to do the math, though, to tell you how many. I wouldn't be comfortable going more than 1 or 2.
Okay.
I have a question also. So the question would be around food. So would food be delivered all 5 days, or would food be delivered 3 days that week?
The food delivery, regardless of the decision that we made, would remain the same. We made sure that that was one of the first things that we found out. So it would be Monday, Wednesday. So you'd have the Monday for the 2 days and then the Wednesday for the 3 days. So
Okay.
food would continue as was, or
Okay.
as is.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. If there are no other comments, we have a motion. Shall we vote? Roll call. Laurel?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Charlie?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Patty?
Aye.
Alicia?
Yes.
And I say aye. So the motion that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation of a hybrid approach, it will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday being the flex day, Thursday, Friday off, giving it a long weekend, and that school will run no later than the 12th.
Of June.
Of June, yes. Sorry. Of June. Sorry, everyone. 12th of June. That carries 700. All right.
All right.
Public comments 2.
So I currently only have 2 questions or comments that have been raised my way. But before I read them, I guess I'll just repeat because we did have some people that came in after the first public comment section, if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
So there's a few ways that you guys can get in public comments if you wish to. There is a Zoom group chat feature that you can access. Send a message that way, and be sure to include your full name and address so we know who you are. I will read whatever comes into the comments section. The other way that you could do it is you could send a text message to 603-933-0973. Same thing as before, first and last name in the message along with your address. Third way is if you go into the participants tab, there should be a way where you can actually raise your hand. And through that, I should be able to see it. I will be able to unmute you, and I'll acknowledge you based on whatever your tag is. And then again, just name, address, and your message. So I'll read the first couple that we have, and then if we have additional ones, we can go from there. So let me find the first one. So I have Corey Manley. I believe you're from Jaffrey, Corey, if you could just confirm that for me. She was wondering if there was any way that we could just do a quick review of the proposed schedule for next year, including start and finish dates. And then a similar question from Erin Chamberlain of Jaffrey. And she says, I found it interesting that most people that spoke tonight appear to be in favor of getting out early. I would just like to say that maybe more thought could go into next year's calendar, as it's slated to be a full week later that we get out. So 2 questions relative to next year's calendar as proposed.
Okay, and that's it?
That's all I have as of right now. Let me just check through to see if there's any hands raised. I don't have any hands raised, and there's a message about potentially some audio issues on one end. And it sounds like some people, the audio might be in and out, but other people are saying that the audio is strong. So.
Okay. Okay. So I think that the proposed calendar is on next week's agenda. Is that correct?
That is the plan for discussion and potential adoption.
Okay. So I would say if there is, I hear considering the start date so that the end date is sooner, that kind of thing, that that next year's proposed calendar has a September start date as opposed to an August. So if there are other questions or comments, I mean, that one we know. And yes, we are going to talk about it and vote on it next week. So I would say to the board members, you know, between now and then, if you want to look at that and look at other possibilities. And if anyone has a proposal, then they can email it to the superintendent or myself or any of the board representatives, and we can look at that as part of our discussion. And we'll discuss that next week.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Has Conval officially adopted their schedule for next year?
Conval has adopted their schedule for next year, yes.
And so that's available for us to look at?
You can, yep, you can go on, well, I believe so. I have it. So Nick and I have it, but certainly I believe it's online too.
Okay. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, we will do
Okay.
that. Yep.
And how about Messinic?
I would have to get that.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, it would be really helpful if we could see those when we're thinking about this. Okay, and Nick, has anything else come in?
Just double checking again real quick.
Nick, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of
I
course.
just wanted, was Corey's question about what the start date and end date were? I mean, we can, I know we're going to discuss it, but did
Yeah,
we
she just
answer
wanted, her
her
question was,
question?
could we quickly review the proposed schedule next year start?
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought she wanted to know the exact dates, so that's fine. So we'll discuss it in the future.
I think there were some revisions with some holidays that needed to be made before we looked at it again.
Yeah, those
We have a
those
couple-
have since been made, and the agenda, it'll be posted on the agenda, updated as of our last discussion.
So Nick and I will go over it one last time tomorrow before we post anything. And then to make sure all the dates and the lettering and so forth is correct. And then we'll also send what we have for the Conval calendar. And if we can get the Messinic one, we'll send that out as well.
That'd be great.
The issue this year is that Labor Day is very late.
Mm-hmm.
Ruben, I mean, I can ask this, I'll ask this now, but it's a question that I would like answered before next week. Are there districts that don't make up their snow days or do something differently to make up their snow days?
No, there are other districts who go, if they go by hours, they can sometimes choose to do the minimum. It depends on your daily schedule, of course, as to how that looks. Some people would say it's 165 days. Some are saying it's more like 172. Again, it depends on what their hours in the day are. And we have some neighbors of ours who function that way. And other districts choose to use the blizzard bag approach. Not many of them, maybe 2 or 3, which is exactly what we're doing right now. There's a little bit of a difference in the regulations around doing that. There's an 80% required.
That's right.
I don't know if you say not just attendance, but kind of participation rate that has to happen when those in order to count in the day. But that's the bit of the legislation that was adjusted for this remote time.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we're on to board matters. Anything? Okay, and then future items, which Ruben, we said we would put out there a little bit about looking ahead, what it looks like for things traditionally like prom, graduation, what might be some alternatives.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that in looking at what some other places have chosen to do, this is certainly a difficult time. I think we would need to wait this week to see what the governor is going to say about things. I don't know if he will come out with a statement about furthering this process or what he's doing throughout the state with businesses and so forth, but I think that he's hinting at making some statements later on in the week.
Okay.
So it'd be good to know that information. If you look at some colleges, because this certainly matters to them as it hits them first before it hits us, you see Keene State decided that they would switch theirs over till October. Franklin Pierce toward the beginning of summer. So it's tough to know exactly what the right time is. There were some conversations just internally about, well, if FPU is doing it at a specific time and maybe they're doing it outside and maybe they have a tent and maybe we can all piggyback on this type of event that is going on, but we'd have to have more conversations, and certainly I've not talked to them about that yet. I think that one thing is for certain out of those two items is that they are wanting to have an in-person event. And I think that our students would like to have an in-person event. I think we need to have an in-person event. So whether we have something that's digital at a specific time frame and then we have another ceremony later, that's a possibility. As for things like prom, an idea, once again, it's going to be very difficult to do something during this school year. But if there were a night or a day that we had a in-person graduation, you could, maybe do a prom in that evening. I really think that it's something that the students, if we could get them involved in the process, along with the administration and some teachers, it would be a good conversation to have and to problem solve what the best solution would be.
All right. Again, for our discussion, I'm just going to go around and ask each one of you if you have thoughts. Laurel, do you have some thoughts?
I wonder if there is any news or rumblings from the Department of Education about coming back to school this spring, and if there are any guidelines about how we would go about doing that, actually, whether it's this spring or next fall, that we should be working on.
So I connect with a commissioners meeting every week a couple times, and there are no guidelines at this point in time. I do think, again, that Chris Sununu, the governor, is likely to make some statements later on this week that will help to shape maybe some other thoughts about the rest of the year. But the commissioner has not, we have not gotten to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Heidi.
Just that I definitely agree there needs to be an in-person event somehow for our graduating seniors. And, but I love the idea, Ruben, that the kids get involved with helping to figure out what that could look like when we can actually start to make those types of decisions. But it would be really sad not to have an in-person event for that. And I think the prom is really important too. I think, again, figuring out how the kids feel about that, graduation would be the number one important thing in my mind, and prom would follow that. And obviously if we could do both somehow, that would be great. But I think the focus on graduation especially needs to take place.
Thanks. Charlie?
Yeah, I think it's good to get started on it and work on it and look at some options. We've got 2 months to go, so it's not a panic situation right now. I think a lot of things are going to happen during that 2 months. There'll be a lot more stability in terms of time frames and what's going to happen when. So I think we should get started. Yeah, I think it's a little bit premature to try to reach any decisions in the next few weeks.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. John?
Yeah, I would agree. It's good to know that the governor is likely to make an announcement sometime soon. I guess that's expected. But the more information we have, the better we can make a good decision. So I would support Ruben's comments, and I particularly like the idea of getting students involved. In fact, it would be kind of nice to hear what some ideas might be on how that could happen. Would that be over just kind of an online discussion, or how could it possibly work? But it's a chance for student democracy and working with advisors who can help them, guide them. That would be a good outcome.
Thanks, John. Patty?
I agree. And, I think in some ways there's so many things to consider if this is a state decision, which it will be. All of the high schools will be going through the same thing. Thousands of kids will be impacted, and there are probably a lot of really good ideas. Some will come from us, some are the kids and our local here. We got some incredibly creative teachers who know these kids, as really, really well. So they're going to make that personal in some capacity, that. But I also am, this is big for the 5th graders, and this is big for the 8th graders, and this is big for their parents. There's so many things. All the concerts we're missing, all that awesomeness that happens in the spring. So, it's very hard to get ahead of these kind of decisions because they need to be collaboratively discussed, and it's challenging. It's going to be very challenging.
Yeah. Thanks, Patty. Alicia?
Yeah, so I think it's really hard to make a decision of that magnitude this early on. I think it will be really helpful to get more guidance from the state level. And kind of like what Patty said, that will help us figure out, what our next steps are. But as far as deciding anything now, it just seems too soon. But certainly, these are 2 really huge events that we will need to give some thought at some point. And I love Ruben's suggestion of getting the students involved in this. They always have really great ideas. And I think that giving them that, purpose in making these decisions is really important.
Thank you. And I agree that, this is the students' rite of passage. So they need to own this. It's going to be different from the traditional, and I think their voice should be very strong in this.
If we get to that point, let's not.
Yeah.
Marcia. So we do have at least one of, if not both of our student reps on right now. And Patrick has reached out and asked, would you like us to get student input about wanting to do an event? So we do definitely have both. Antonio just confirmed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you want to start saying, we don't know what it's going to look like, but most likely we're going to have to come up with an alternative. What should this be? Or what would you like, what should be components to it that will make it meaningful? Yeah.
I think it would be really a good idea to first reach out to Colleen McIntyre.
Yeah.
Colleen is the one who annually plans. I mean, she thinks she has other individuals who help her as well, but she's been a stable individual in that area. So I think that would be good. And then to kind of brainstorm how to go about things from there.
All right. So Ruben, are you going to contact her and also tell her that our 2 student reps are ready, willing, and able?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Great. Thank you.
And is this a good time to hear from our student reps? Can we unmute them?
If the board wants me to, I'm more than happy to.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right, so let me just find them both. All right, so we have Antonio, and we will now have Patrick.
What do you want to hear from us?
How you doing?
Hey, I guess.
Yeah.
I have an idea for graduation. We could do it over Minecraft. I will make a giant server. My mother is getting death stare for that, but I could definitely pull that one off. That's an idea.
Well, we will see.
What they did it in Japan.
Right?
What?
That's a thing that happened in Japan. That's where I got the idea from.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well,
Antonio, do you have any 2 cents you'd like to chime in?
Not at the moment. I don't.
Okay. All right. So, is there any other thoughts anyone wants to contribute at this point? All right. Then I guess I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
this is Laurel. I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Laurel.
This is John, a second.
Thank you, John. So we have an adjournment. Yay! We don't have to vote for adjournment.
Okay. By unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent. Yeah, unless you know, yeah, no. It carries 7-0-0.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to all the participants.
Yes,
Thanks
thank
for
you,
coming.
everyone.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good
Night.
night.
Night.